The stars outside the ship's window looked peaceful, like tiny diamonds on a black velvet sky. But peace was far from the minds of the people inside the galactic envoy ship Unity 1. On board, Ambassador James Rourke sat quietly in his seat, reading the final details of his speech. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He was not just any diplomat. He was Earth's first representative to the Galactic Council, and today was the most important meeting of his career. The Galactic Council was made up of over 20 advanced alien species, each with their own history, power, and politics. Humanity had only joined 3 years ago, still new, still watched closely. Some species welcomed humans with open arms, while others didn't trust them. The Velthari were one of the oldest and most powerful races in the Council. Tall, insect-like beings with sharp mandibles and glowing eyes, they believed in tradition, control, and strength, and they never liked humans. Today's summit was being held on Zekara, the Velthari homeworld. It was the first time a human diplomat would step onto their soil for an official meeting. The stakes were high, and the whole galaxy was watching. The goal was peace, at least that's what it was supposed to be. As the ship landed on the platform outside the Grand Hall of Councils, Rourke took a deep breath and stood up. His assistant, Lieutenant Sarah Cho, handed him the small black datapad with his notes. "We are ready, sir," she said, trying to hide the nervousness in her voice. Rourke gave a small smile. "Let's go make history." The hall was massive, shaped like a dome, with glowing blue lights and silver walls covered in alien symbols. Each council species had their own section. The Velthari sat near the front, their long arms folded, expressions cold and unreadable. Rourke walked calmly to the central platform, his earth-blue ambassador robes flowing behind him. The cameras were rolling. Billions across the galaxy were watching the live stream. He bowed his head in respect, then spoke. "Honored members of the Council, I come today not just as a representative of Earth, but as a believer in peace and cooperation. We may be new among you, but we are here to stay, and we wish to build, not destroy." His voice was steady, his words chosen carefully. As he spoke, some nodded, others remained still. But in the Velthari section, something changed. One of the guards, wearing dark armor with the Velthari crest, moved from his position. It was a small step at first, nothing strange. But then, without warning, he walked forward quickly. Too quickly. Rourke turned just in time to see the armored fist coming toward him. A loud crack echoed through the hall. The punch hit Rourke directly in the side of his head, sending him crashing to the floor. Gasps filled the chamber. The human assistant screamed. Security bots moved. The cameras zoomed in. The guard stood over Rourke's unconscious body, silent and still. The other Velthari guards rushed forward, tackling him, shouting in their clicking language. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates yelled, others tried to leave. The Earth delegation surrounded the ambassador's body. Blood trickled down his cheek. He wasn't moving. It took 5 minutes to clear the hall, but by then, the footage had already gone viral. Across Earth, people watched in horror as one of their own was struck down on live broadcast. News anchors repeated the scene again and again. The Velthari guard attacks human diplomat. Was it planned? What does this mean for peace? Back in the hall, Lieutenant Cho stood over her fallen boss. Her voice shook as she spoke into the communicator. "This is Unity 1. We need immediate med-evac. Ambassador Rourke is down. I repeat, he's down." The Velthari Council leader, Elder Zar, stepped forward, his long fingers raised in a calming gesture. "This was a mistake," he said in a deep voice. "The guard acted alone. He has been arrested. We apologize for this unfortunate event." Cho's eyes burned with anger. "Unfortunate," she snapped. "He nearly killed our ambassador on your floor, on your planet, during a peace meeting." Zar didn't blink. "The Velthari will investigate fully. We advise patience." Cho didn't reply. She looked down at Rourke again. His breathing was shallow, but still there. She whispered, "Hang in there, sir." On Earth, the president called an emergency meeting with the Defense Council. Military leaders, intelligence officers, and diplomats sat around the long table. The room was tense. "This wasn't just an attack," the president said slowly. "It was a message. Someone wants to push us out of the council. Or worse, they want a war." The defense chief leaned forward. "Ma'am, if we don't respond, we'll look weak. The whole galaxy just saw one of ours get hit like a dog. We need to act." "Not yet," the president said. "First, we find out who ordered the hit." In the quiet recovery room on the ship, Rourke opened his eyes for just a second. Cho was by his side. His lips moved weakly. "Not a guard," he whispered. "What?" Cho leaned in, confused. He swallowed. "Not Velthari. Armor. Disguise." Then his eyes closed again. Cho's heart stopped for a moment. Not a Velthari. Then who? And why? Back on Zakara, the captured guard was taken into a private chamber. 3 Velthari officers stood around him. One of them leaned in close and hissed, "Do you have any idea what you've done?" The attacker looked up. His face shifted for a moment, glitching like bad hologram code. For a second, his features weren't Velthari at all, but something else, something with smooth gray skin and black eyes. He smiled. "Oh, I know exactly what I've done." The officers stepped back, alarmed. One reached for a weapon, but the imposter didn't move. "You think this was random," he said. "You think humans are your biggest threat. You're all fools. The galaxy doesn't need peace. It needs control." Then the room lights blinked once, then again, and suddenly he was gone. The next day, the Galactic Council held a private emergency meeting. Most of the members demanded the Velthari explain the attack, but the Velthari leadership kept repeating the same thing. It was a rogue agent, a mistake. But not everyone believed it. And on Earth, people had already decided. They assaulted a human diplomat. And now, the galaxy would see the true face of humanity. Not just diplomats, but warriors. The silence in the Galactic Council chamber had become heavier than ever. No one knew exactly who to blame, but everyone knew one thing for sure: the humans would not stay quiet for long. Back on Earth, the news of the ambassador's assault had taken over every screen, every conversation, and every government meeting. The message was clear: someone had struck a human on purpose, and now there would be consequences. Ambassador Rourke was in a coma. Doctors worked day and night to keep him alive. His injuries were serious, and it was unclear if he would ever wake up again. His assistant, Lieutenant Cho, stayed by his side, her hands clenched into fists. The words he had whispered before passing out repeated in her mind again and again. Not a guard. Armor. Disguise. She didn't fully understand what it meant yet, but she knew one thing: it wasn't an accident. It wasn't just a Velthari guard losing control. Something deeper was happening. Meanwhile, Earth's president, Helena Drax, stood before the world with a face of stone. Her voice was calm, but everyone could hear the storm behind her words. "We came to the stars with open hands," she said. "We joined the Galactic Council with hope, respect, and trust. But now, one of our own lies in a hospital bed, struck down during a mission of peace. To the Velthari, and to every species watching. Understand this: we do not bleed quietly, and we will not forget." Around her, generals and intelligence leaders nodded. The time for patience was ending. Across Earth and its colonies, military ships were activated. The fleet, called Iron Shield, moved into position. Thousands of drones, fighters, and cruisers powered up in silent orbit. For the first time since humanity joined the Galactic Council, the full strength of Earth's Space Force was revealed. In the Deep Space Command Center, Admiral Vance, an old war hero with a mechanical arm, watched the screens lighting up with activity. "I've waited 20 years for peace," he muttered, "but if they want fire, we'll give them fire." But the response wasn't just military, it was emotional. On every planet where humans lived, Mars, Europa, Titan, people took to the streets. Some held up signs, "Protect our own." Others called for Earth to leave the Council completely. Still, not everyone wanted war. In a small intelligence station on Earth's moon, analyst Talia Briggs sat hunched over her console. She was young, sharp, and curious by nature. When she saw the footage of the attack, something didn't sit right with her. She watched it again and again, slowing it down, zooming in, checking angles. Then she noticed something strange. Just 1 second before the attack, the Velthari guard smiled. A Velthari doesn't smile, not like that. Their species isn't built to show emotion like humans. That smile looked fake, forced, human. Talia ran a facial scan. The match didn't come back as Velthari at all. Instead, a warning flashed. Unknown species, match 67% Zolari genetic markers. Her hands froze. The Zolari, one of the most secretive races in the Council, tall, thin, with skin like liquid silver, and minds sharper than any knife. They rarely spoke, never interfered, and never trusted humans. But no one expected them to do something like this. She immediately sent the data to Earth Intelligence Command. An hour later, she was called into a private meeting. "You sure about this?" the director asked. "Yes, sir," Talia replied. The attacker wasn't Velthari. He was wearing armor that looked like theirs. "I think this whole thing was a setup." The director leaned back, rubbing his temples. "If you're right, then this is bigger than we thought." Back on Zakara, the Velthari were in full panic mode. Their government was being pressured from all sides. Other alien species were asking questions they didn't want to answer. Their people were protesting. Even their soldiers began whispering that perhaps the humans were not the enemy. In the middle of this chaos, Elder Zor received a secret message. It was short, only a few words. "Phase 1 complete. Now push them to strike." Zar's eyes narrowed. He knew what this meant. The Zolari were pulling the strings. They wanted war. Why? Perhaps to weaken humanity. Perhaps to take control of the Council themselves. But Zar was caught in the middle now. If he revealed the truth, the Velthari would lose face. If he stayed quiet, the galaxy might burn. And Earth was already preparing for fire. Aboard the command ship Resolute Dawn, Admiral Vance stared at the stars ahead. His voice echoed through the fleet's comm system. "Today we do not attack, but we stand ready. If they strike again, even by accident, we unleash the full power of Earth. Let this be our warning shot." The fleet began moving toward Zakara space, slow and heavy like a giant metal beast waking from sleep. The galaxy watched as Earth's warships passed through Council borders. Some cheered. Some panicked. Others prepared their own weapons. Meanwhile, deep in the cold outer sectors, Talia Briggs kept digging. She intercepted another transmission, this time from a hidden Zolari ship. The voice was calm, smooth, and terrifying. "They are reacting exactly as expected. Soon, the humans will attack. The Council will fear them. And then, we will rebuild the galaxy in our image." Talia's heart raced. This wasn't just a trick. It was a plan. A galactic-level manipulation designed to paint humans as monsters, to trap them in a war they didn't start. She had to act fast. She recorded the message, traced the ship's location, and sent a coded alert to Earth and the Council leaders. The message was simple. The attack was Zolari, not Velthari. "We have proof." But would it reach in time? Back on Zakara, Elder Zor stared out of his tower window, watching human warships in orbit. The Council had called for peace talks again, but no one truly believed they would work. The humans were angry. The Velthari were ashamed. The Zolari were hidden in the shadows. And above them all, the galaxy held its breath. On Earth, President Drax looked at the latest report from Talia Briggs. Her eyes narrowed. "So," she whispered, "they thought they could push us into a corner." She stood slowly, walking toward the command center windows, watching the stars. "Well, let's show them what humans do when we're backed into a corner." The stars around Zakara looked calm, but inside the Galactic Council, a storm was growing. Everyone had seen the human warships now floating in orbit, silent, powerful, watching. They hadn't fired yet, but they didn't need to. Their message was already clear: we're ready. Elder Zor stood in the shadows of his private chamber. His claws tapped slowly on the control pad, deep in thought. The attack on Ambassador Rourke had been a disaster, not just for humans, but for the Velthari as well. Their honor was shattered. Their people were afraid, and the council didn't trust them anymore. But the worst part, he had just received the secret message again, only 5 words this time. Let the humans strike first. It was from the Zolari. Zar's mind raced. He didn't like humans, but he wasn't a fool. He knew they were strong, fast learners, and dangerous when provoked. And now, someone was trying very hard to provoke them. He turned to his assistant. "Prepare the old archives. I want every record of Zolari Galthari contact reviewed." His assistant blinked in surprise. "But those files are restricted, even to council members." Zar's eyes narrowed. "Then find someone who doesn't care about restrictions." On a small moon called Veros 3, far from the center of the galaxy, Talia Briggs stepped out of her shuttle into freezing wind. She had followed the trace of the Zolari signal here, away from council-controlled space. No backup, no protection, just a small blaster in her coat and a datapad full of secrets. She entered the abandoned listening post, now running only on emergency power. The place was cold and dark, but her scanner lit up. The Zolari had been here. Recent, maybe even now. Talia found the signal chamber and plugged in her data core. A hidden message decrypted on her screen. Operation Veilstorm. Primary objective: frame the Velthari. Force human retaliation. Collapse council trust. Step into the power vacuum. Talia's eyes widened. So it was true. The Zolari had planned everything, from the fake guard to the council chaos. She quickly uploaded the files to her comlink, trying to connect to Earth Command. Static. The signal was jammed. Her heart pounded. Then she heard footsteps. Someone else was in the station. She pulled out her blaster and backed into the shadows. A tall figure stepped into the room, its skin shimmering like liquid silver. Zolari. He didn't speak, just looked at her, head tilted, almost curious. Talia raised her weapon. "Don't move." The Zolari smiled. "You're smarter than I expected, and braver." "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "We are correcting the mistake of letting your kind into the stars," he said calmly. "You rise too fast. You grow too strong. Your emotions make you dangerous. So, we guided the story." Talia kept her aim steady. "You attacked our diplomat." "We made it look like your enemies did," he replied. "Now your ships are in orbit, your leaders are ready for war, and the council will blame you for starting it." She fired. The blast hit a wall. The Zolari had already moved. She ran, data core clutched tight in her hand. She had to get back to Earth. Back on Zakara, Ambassador Rourke opened his eyes. Barely. His vision was blurry, and his head pounded, but he saw Lieutenant Cho leaning over him. "You're alive," she whispered, relieved. He blinked slowly. "Armor, not real. Someone else." "I know," she said. Talia found proof. It wasn't a Velthari guard. It was a Zolari agent. Rourke nodded weakly. "Then we have to tell the council. Now." Cho stood. "Earth Command is already on it. But the Zolari are fast. They're trying to erase everything." In the heart of the Galactic Council, tension had reached its peak. Some members now demanded that humans leave the council for breaking peace. Others warned that war was coming. The Velthari stayed mostly silent, ashamed and confused. Then a message arrived. From Talia Briggs. It was short and encrypted, but it included proof, video logs, genetic scans, and decoded Zolari plans. Elder Zar was the first to see it. He stood up in the chamber. "I have something to say," he growled. Everyone turned. "The Velthari were not behind the attack on the human ambassador," he said clearly. "The creature who struck him was a Zolari agent wearing a fake uniform. I have the data. And I believe Earth does too." Gasps, shouts, disbelief. The Zolari ambassador remained silent. Then President Drax's face appeared on the council's main display. "We were tricked," she said firmly. "We prepared for war, yes, but now we prepare for truth." She played the message from Talia, showing the Zolari plan. The room fell into silence. The Zolari ambassador finally stood. "We only did what was necessary," he said coldly. "You are a danger to peace. You are violent by nature. You do not belong in this galaxy." President Drax's voice was calm. "Maybe, or maybe we're just not easy to control." Council members began whispering among themselves. Then the Zolari ambassador gave a strange signal and disappeared in a flash of light. Escape. In deep space, Zolari ships started moving. Stealth fleets, hidden in dark zones, now activated. Talia finally reached her escape shuttle, bruised but alive. She sent a final message to Earth. Zolari fleets mobilizing. They're planning a first strike. Back on the Resolute Dawn, Admiral Vance received the alert. He turned to his second-in-command. "Are the railguns charged?" "Yes, sir." He looked out the window at the stars. "Then light them up." The countdown to war had ended. The real fight was about to begin. The stars didn't look the same anymore. They used to shine like beacons of hope, symbols of unity between species. But now, they glowed cold and sharp like the edge of a blade. And that blade was about to fall. Admiral Vance stood at the command deck of the Resolute Dawn, Earth's most advanced warship. It floated at the edge of Zakara space, silent but ready. Around it, hundreds of human ships waited. Destroyers, stealth cruisers, drone carriers, all locked into formation. Humanity had not fired the first shot, but now they would answer the threat. Talia Briggs' warning had reached Earth Command in time. The Zolari were preparing to strike. Secret fleets had been hiding in deep space, waiting for the perfect moment. The attack on Ambassador Rourke was just the beginning, a trap meant to break peace and blame humans for the chaos. But the plan had failed. Now humanity wasn't just defending themselves. They were hunting the truth. Inside the council chamber, the Zolari ambassador had vanished after being exposed. Several council members demanded that Earth leave, fearing full war. But others, like the Velthari, began to see the truth. Elder Zar, head of the Velthari Council, released a public statement. For the first time in centuries, he bowed to another species. "We were deceived," he said. "We owe the humans our apology. And our help." The galaxy was watching closely. On Earth, President Drax gave a final broadcast. "We did not come to the stars to conquer, but we will not be used, fooled, or broken. We are not the enemy. We are the storm that follows the lie." In a single command, she authorized Operation Wakefire. Human fleets jumped across the stars. Their first target, a Zolari command base hidden near the Black Dwarf's star Vec 9. The station was shielded and invisible to most scanners. But humans had learned quickly. They had adapted to alien tech faster than anyone expected. Now, they had weapons the Zolari didn't even know existed. The attack began at 4:30 Galactic Standard Time. It was fast, silent, and brutal. Talia Briggs sat inside a stealth vessel, watching the battle from above. Her job wasn't to fight. It was to collect data, steal secrets, and find proof the Zolari were manipulating more than just Earth. The Resolute Dawn launched its kinetic railguns, giant metal rounds. No lasers, no lights, just raw force, tore through the Zolari defenses. Human drones swarmed like metal bees, targeting engines and power cores. The Zolari fought back, but they were not ready for the rage of Earth. "Target down," one pilot said. "Station disabled," another confirmed. The base exploded in silent fire, floating debris spinning into the dark. Tullia's ship entered the wreckage zone, scanning for logs, files, anything that could help. Inside the broken pieces of the Zolari base, she found something that chilled her blood. A list. Names. Species. And under each species, notes. Weak. Divided. Too slow. Unstable. And beside human. Dangerous. Must be broken early. She sent the file to Earth, then stared at the rest of the log. The Zolari had been watching every species for centuries, studying them, planning to control them all. Earth had just been the newest threat. Now they were public enemy number one. On the other side of the galaxy, Zolari ships attacked a small colony on Luna 3. Families, farmers, scientists, people who had nothing to do with war, were forced to flee. But they didn't run alone. Within minutes, human defense drones activated and held the skies. A squad of Earth Marines landed, led by Captain Ria Lang. She had only one order: protect every civilian at any cost. The fight was intense. Zolari infantry used advanced cloaking and teleport systems, but the Marines had mirror-linked armor, thermal vision, and something stronger: anger. "You came for the wrong people," Lang shouted as she led the charge. When the smoke cleared, the colony still stood, and a message was carved into the ground by the retreating Zolari. "This is only the beginning." Back on Zakara, Ambassador Rourke finally stood on his feet again, weak but alive. He walked into the council chamber with Lieutenant Cho at his side. The room went silent. He didn't speak with rage or threats. His voice was calm, focused. "I came to this council in peace. I still want peace. But now I know what peace means to some of you. It means control, lies, fear. I won't accept that kind of peace." He looked straight at the remaining council members. "We don't want to rule you. We don't want to replace anyone. But we will not be anyone's pawn. We are humans, and we are done being silent." He walked out without waiting for applause. The next day, Earth officially announced they would stay in the council, but on their own terms. No more silence. No more trusting shadows. Some species applauded. Others feared what was coming. The Zolari responded the only way they knew how: with fire. In Sector 31, a massive space station belonging to a peaceful species called the Arindi was suddenly attacked. Zolari ships blasted through their shields. Hundreds died. The council again debated who was to blame. But this time, Earth didn't wait. Admiral Vance ordered a strike fleet to intercept the Zolari raiders mid-attack. The galaxy was burning. Across thousands of star systems, alarms echoed. Space stations activated shields. Ships turned from trade to war. Entire species were caught in confusion, fear, and anger. And above it all, the Zolari moved like ghosts in the dark, unseen, deadly, and always 2 steps ahead. But this time, they had made a mistake. They had underestimated humanity. The attack on the Arindi space station had shocked the council. The Zolari still denied it, but the proof was there, sent by Earth, confirmed by other species. Even old enemies of humans now began to question the Zolari's true goals. Back on Earth, President Drax stood in the global command room, staring at a holographic map of the known galaxy. Dozens of red dots flashed, Zolari fleets moving in the shadows. Their plan was nearly complete. "They want chaos," she said. "If every species turns on the other, they'll be the only ones left standing." Admiral Vance nodded. "We can stop them. But not with weapons alone. We need to show the others what's really happening. And we need time. said Talia Briggs, now promoted and working directly under Earth's intelligence command. There's one final message. The Zolari call it the core directive. It's their master plan. If we can get it, we can end this. Where is it? Drax asked. Talia looked up. Deep space. Zolari Prime. Zolari Prime wasn't a planet. It was a fortress. A giant, rotating city of metal floating near a dying star. It was hidden behind quantum shields and false gravity fields. No one had ever gotten close. Until now. A special unit of Earth's best soldiers, pilots, and hackers boarded the stealth ship Eclipse 9. Their mission: break into Zolari Prime, steal the core directive, and expose the truth to the entire galaxy. The team included Talia, Captain Rhea Lang, and an AI named Orion, built to counter Zolari tech. They were the best Earth had. And they had one chance. The Eclipse 9 dropped out of warp just outside the hidden zone. Talia's voice was calm, but her hands shook. We're in. Immediately, alarm screamed inside the Zolari fortress. They know we're here, said Lang, cocking her weapon. Good, Talia replied. Let's give them something to be afraid of. The battle inside was fast and brutal. Zolari guards attacked with energy blades and mind tech that could twist perception. But the humans had trained for this. Lang's team moved like lightning, covering each other with perfect coordination. Orion hacked security doors in seconds. Talia navigated the maze of corridors using stolen blueprints. They reached the core room, a sphere of light floating in a black chamber. This is it, whispered Talia. As she plugged in the data spike, Zolari soldiers appeared. Dozens, maybe more. Lang stepped forward. You want her, you go through us. The room exploded into chaos. Talia stayed at the console, downloading the file as blaster fire lit the chamber. Orion's voice echoed. Data 75% complete. 85%, almost there. One of the soldiers struck Lang hard. Her armor cracked. She dropped to one knee. Another blast came, and suddenly the Zolari guard fell. Behind him stood a Velthari warrior. Thought you might need help, the insectoid growled. Dozens more followed. Zakara had sent backup. The download finished. Talia grabbed the drive and ran. Back in council space, the emergency meeting had already started. Dozens of species, panicked and angry, argued over who to blame. Some still pointed fingers at humans. Others begged for peace. And then, the chamber lights flickered. A transmission took over every screen. Talia's voice echoed through the council. My name is Talia Briggs. I am from Earth. And this is the truth. She played the core directive. It showed Zolari leaders speaking openly. Let the others fight. Let them tear each other apart. When they are weak, we will offer peace, but only on our terms. The galaxy will belong to us. Silence filled the chamber. No one could argue now. The Zolari had betrayed them all. The council moved fast. A rare decision was passed. Full Zolari isolation. Every species, including the Velthari, agreed to block Zolari fleets, expose their agents, and support humanity's response. But it wasn't enough. The Zolari launched one final attack. Target: Earth itself. They sent a fleet of black cruisers toward the solar system, hoping to destroy what they couldn't control. But this time, humanity wasn't alone. The Velthari sent warships. The Arindi sent energy shields. Even distant species who had never trusted humans joined them. And above Earth, the greatest space battle in modern galactic history began. Admiral Vance led from the Resolute Dawn. We hold the line, he said, not just for Earth, but for every species they tried to break. The Zolari fought like demons. But the galaxy had changed, and Earth had grown. The Resolute Dawn took heavy damage, but Vance refused to retreat. Then, a final shot, fired by a Velthari plasma cannon, struck the Zolari command ship. It exploded in blue light. The battle was over. Days later, the council met again. This time, Earth sat at the head of the table, not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as equals. Ambassador Rourke, now fully recovered, stood tall. This war wasn't about humans, he said. It was about truth. The Zolari feared us, because we refused to be silent. Maybe that's what makes us dangerous, but maybe that's what makes us necessary. No one argued. Earth was now seen not as a threat, but as the galaxy's shield against the shadows. Talia returned to Earth a hero. Lang and her soldiers were honored. Even Elder Zor visited Earth in person, a first for a Velthari. The scars of war would take time to heal. But the message was clear. You can try to control humanity. You can try to trick them. But when you push them too far, they won't break. They'll rise. And they'll make sure the whole galaxy rises with them.